Hello, welcome to Heretic Owl Tarot. My name is Liz. I'll be guiding you on this color journey today. This is definitely outside of my normal content on this channel, but I just have this desire to switch it up, and I think it's because there's a lot of energy happening in Aries, which is my 10th house. So anyway, also interesting, like when I think Aries, I actually think the color red. So kind of curious that like that even came up, because this is actually the third time that I'm starting this video and I never mentioned that. So maybe you're in Aries, maybe just the area of your chart that Aries rules is like you're also just noticing burst of energy. Like I said, like that's my 10th house, which is career and reputation, public image. So here I am, like I said, like kind of doing something outside of my normal content, but I have had this idea in my mind for a couple weeks. Actually, this little birdie's been flying around to do readings based on like your favorite color. And I love the idea. I think it's so fun. It just took me literally weeks to do, because then I had to like separate or just like kind of go through the tarot and oracle decks that I had, to kind of get everything organized. So this is, of course, for the color red. I also just wanted to share a couple like color psychology, a little bit of information regarding the psychology around the color red, just a few, themes, keywords. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I just had lunch and I'm having this histamine thing going on. So I apologize for like having to clear my throat and my nose. I'll try to keep that to a minimum as much as I can. I already popped a Pepsid today, so I can't pop another one of those mofos, but hopefully it'll clear up eventually and not be super annoying. So for the color red, the association with it is passion, energy, strength, love, of course, power, determination. It's also like, and maybe that's where I was like getting the Aries thing from, because very wands energy. We think of like intensity, maybe even anger too, because, there is that saying where you see red when you are just kind of like rage or like anger. And when I think of anger, I always like kind of associate it with like suppressed emotion. Or even like an inability to like express yourself. It could even come from your passion or even your energy just being misunderstood or misplaced. And like I know for me personally that if I'm not being heard, or especially like understood, and especially if it is in a tense situation, conversation, then it's like like the level starts rising, and I will get to a point of seeing red, right? And then you just kind of like explode. Like you think of anger in Inside Out, right? It kind of like builds up and you explode. And also even like with Aries too, very interesting that this is even whatever. Well, we're rolling with it. I love when those like associations become more clear. But when you think even Aries, right? Like it's like, I always kind of associate Aries to like a match. And, there's that spark, there's that initial flame, and it kind of like goes out really fast. I have a friend who's an Aries moon, and it's almost like, there's this buildup, there's an expression of emotion. And sometimes it can come across as, an explosion, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then she's fine. But, so there's like this buildup, a release, and then, back to normal or whatever. So anyway, also red being associated with the root chakra as well, and just being grounded. So yeah, if there are any other things having to do with the color red that I didn't mention and that you want to mention, or why you love the color red or whatever, feel free to drop it in the comments. So what we are going to do, it's a 4-card spread. We're going to use this deck first. We'll pull a clarifier card with this deck, and then I have 2 oracle decks as well. And the first position is your current energy, or like what is currently surrounding you. What are you focusing on? Let's see. Is it 2 cards? Okay. I'm like, we'll do 2 cards, but oh, I still need that deck. Okay, we have the 6 of Swords and the Ace of Swords. Interesting. And the second one is what you're not seeing, or, potentially what you're avoiding, suppressing. The 7 of Swords. Interesting. Okay, lots of heavy mental action. The third position is what is coming in for you, meaning like what's shifting, what is changing, what's opening up for you. We have the Temperance card, and finally the guidance, the advice. The 10 of Pentacles and the 9 of Wands. All right. And let's get a clarifying card. Let me make sure. Okay, clarifying card for current energy. We have the 8 of Cups. Clarifying card for what you're not seeing, what you are avoiding or suppressing. That was kind of like an explosion, so that's interesting. We'll see what card comes out though. What are you not seeing? Or even too, like what you're not showing or what you're not expressing. The 8 of Swords, interesting. And also, I thought, did I see like there it is. These okay. And what is coming in or shifting, transforming, opening up for you? Interesting, we have 2 8s though, clarifying. We have the Page of Wands and the Knight of Cups. And the guidance, the advice, the outcome. What's the point? The Knight of Pentacles. Okay. And then, well, I'll move these around as soon as I get all the cards out. What is the oracle message? I love all of life. I see love everywhere and in everyone. I kind of love, and then it says, I matter at the bottom. If you can see that. And then clarify that it's an enigma. Okay, let me move some cards around and like just clean this up a little bit. Okay. I mean, that's a little better. I know we're kind of like just stuffing in a bunch of cards here. That's okay. Heavy Swords energy on the top though. Okay, so let's just start with the current energy. we have the Six of Swords and the Ace of Swords. And it's like wanting to change your mindset, like even your focus, which is interesting. Yeah, well, I think I might have said like, what is your current focus like for the first position here? But especially with swords having to do with our mind and our mindset, our thoughts, our beliefs, ideas. I also see swords as being the suit of ego, because that's generally where we tend to hear our ego is in our minds. And, excuse me, our egos are created by the stories that we attach to experiences, circumstances, feelings. And that becomes our belief system. It becomes the filter that determines what our realities are, right? Like the Six of Swords talks about shifting mindsets. It's a card that speaks to moving out of turmoil, moving out of, confusion or a lack of clarity, agitation, irritation, even cloudiness. I almost said judgment too, which is interesting. And it's moving towards peace, like almost being neutral. What I also find to be really interesting actually is that we go from the Six of Swords in the current energy to what is hidden being the Seven of Swords and the Eight of Swords. However, though, that also shows like moving through energy too. And it shows like the progression of things. So aces are, of course, brand new. Something new, a new idea, new inspiration. There's also, communication wrapped up in swords as well. Like, how are you communicating your thoughts, your ideas, your beliefs? Even to like down to the way that you are even speaking in general, like, are you talking in circles? I almost also even said riddles, and it's an enigma, because I'm not gonna lie, I literally had to look up the definition of enigma just to make sure that I wasn't sitting here, saying wrong shit. But one of the enigma comes from a Greek word that means to speak in riddles. It applies to things as well as to people that puzzle one's mind. So, also even interesting too, that just the way that like the room that I had, I put that card up there because it fit better, and this square card fit better down here. So I even think that is, kind of divinely orchestrated if you want to go that far, but because it's sitting between all of these swords cards. And we have this one sword card here that speaks about clarity or introducing something new. The swords also have to do with truth. There could be a shift here in what you believe to be true, whether that's of yourself, of your life, of a situation, something that developed your belief system, something that has to do with your ego or your identity surrounding you in your life, or you in your relationship to your life, or the people in it as well. And especially like with the Eight of Cups, the feeling that I was getting from it is that it's like there's a lot of mental process. It's like you feel like you're ready. You feel the shift happening in your mindset. You maybe are even focusing a lot of attention in changing your perception, changing your mind. It could even be affirmations. It's almost too like shifting your homeostasis, and it does take a lot of attention, awareness, focus even to make those shifts, because our mindset, the things that we believe they're so automatic, right? And it takes a lot of awareness constantly to be aware of the thoughts that you are having, especially if you are trying to be observant of them, trying to, just kind of see what the hell is even happening in your mind. And especially if that is in part because you want to shift that. And I keep also like kind of mentioning the shift happening here, not only because of the Six of Swords, but also the Eight of Cups. And again, the feeling that I was getting from it is that it's like you're both mentally and emotionally ready to move away from something. Whether it's moving away from, mental conflict, moving away from mental gymnastics. It could have to do with other people, although none of these cards actually have another person on them. So it could, of course, have to do with your relationships, but again, it could also, like, it's more about like you in regards to the relationship, not necessarily like the focus being on the other person, but more so on you. Also interesting too that like there's a sun that's coming out of the Six of Swords. So I really actually do believe that it's a shift to a more positive or affirmative outlook or mindset. I almost also even feel like it almost even feels like you're like pulling yourself out of something. And with this Ace of Swords here, I also want to say that there could be like, it's like finding the root of that. I don't know, actually more than root, I want to say anchor, because like I just got this vision in my head, or yeah, this picture in my head of an anchor like on a boat, right? Because like when you throw an anchor, that's to like keep you in one place. I mean, of course, like roots kind of fit into that too, but I think it's easier to like pull up an anchor and move, shift, change. The Eight of Cups is, not only are they walking away from these 8 cups because they no longer bring fulfillment or they've served their purpose, but also like this person recognized that there is something else. We kind of know, even though we don't have the card out here on the table, we know that they're moving towards the 9 of Cups because of course that's what comes after 8. But, and that's wish fulfillment. That's having your desires met. That's feeling purposeful. And so again, it's like, on the mental side of things, you are really working on a mindset shift. And again, like even trying to figure out like where the current mindset even comes from. Because also it's like once you know what that is, it's like when you're like back into it, because I keep snapping because it's like homeostasis or ego or identity, like we do just we'll just snap right back into old patterns and old behaviors and ways of thinking and perceiving things. But then it's like once you can recognize that you're back in that, or that you're in it at all, then you can be like, oh, actually, I don't identify with this anymore. I'm not going to attach myself to it. I'm just going to allow myself to move on from it. I'm just going to catch it and be like, nope, that's not what I identify with anymore. That's not, a mindset that is very conducive to the direction that I'm trying to head in, or what I am trying to manifest, or, anything like that. You can just kind of like break the habit, or like interrupt the pattern. And with this, it's an enigma card, like in the middle of these two sections, because over here is what is hidden, or, what's being suppressed or avoided. Again, right? Enigma is something that's puzzling or mysterious, difficult to understand, a riddle to figure out. And especially these two cards, specifically the Seven of Swords, talks about, for me, it's a card of like us fooling ourselves. It's self-sabotage. It's limiting beliefs, right? The card also speaks to betrayal, trickery, manipulation. It's a card of like manipulation in the sense of, what is the word? Well, I want to say like manipulating the odds in your favor. It's also even maybe like sharing enough to where your side of it or your thing is favored. And again, like it's, whether that has to do with other people, whether that's like happening to you or that it did happen to you. Because like even, patterns and behaviors that we have, right? Like we picked those up from our guardians, from our parents, siblings, friends, teachers, and it does just kind of become who we are, right? So it could just be something that is like a subconscious thing that you are not aware of. I think you are becoming aware of those things though. And the Eight of Swords is, for me, it's a self-inflicted mind prison. It's feeling trapped, helpless. It is a bit like victim-y as well. But always in the Eight of Swords, the person is never not able to get themselves out of the situation. Like the card talks about being one decision away from changing your perspective, changing your mindset, changing your mind at all, changing your circumstances. But it's like one of those things of, you'll be there until you decide that you're not. You'll suffer until you decide that you don't have to. You will, potentially blame other people until you recognize that blame doesn't really do shit. Or, again, even just going back to self-inflicted, right? Like feeling like you don't have any other options, or not being able to see a way out. Almost like it's really starting, and I love all of life. I see love everywhere and in everyone. It's almost like I'm just getting this feeling that the enigma, or the circles, the riddle, the confusion that could be happening is because there is somewhere in you, somewhere, a belief that you are not deserving, or that you're not capable, or that, multiple things can exist at the same time, or that your passions can't involve your emotions, or lead to something practical, or something like that materializes, because there is this belief here that is holding you back, that's hidden, that's that self-sabotage, the whatever, Brene Brown calls them gremlins, like whatever it is that kind of goes through your head as soon as you get here, where you're like, I'm ready to make a change, I'm ready to move beyond, I'm ready to get out of this. And then there's something that, again, either is just difficult, or that you don't want to face. And even like, that's what I was saying, like with the anchor thing, because it really is like figuring out, discovering, finding the thing that is, and it may not just be one thing. It could be one thing with many branches on it, of course, it like starts as a little seed. I'm just going to keep going with analogies apparently, but it just, like it's something that starts as a seed and then it grows into a fucking tree all of a sudden, right? And it's like, well, what was the seed though? Like what was the thing that started all of this? Was I told that I was too much? Was I told, like going back to the color psychology thing, like was I shamed for being energetic? Was I told that I was too all over the place? Is there some sort of like suppressed anger? And in part, it's not wanting to express that anger, or not wanting to even believe that anger is under there, or to just not even knowing what the fuck to even do with it. Because it's one thing to recognize that you are actually really angry. And I think a lot of women get to a point where we're like, actually, I'm fucking pissed. Just in general, like, I'm mad that I had to be a certain way. I'm mad that I was suppressed in whatever way. I'm mad that I was treated in the way that I was. I'm mad at the circumstance. I'm mad at, but we never really got to fully express what that felt like and what it actually looked like. Maybe you need to go to one of those places where you can just break shit. Like EMDR would be really beneficial too, but there's something, it's like literally giving yourself permission to express whatever that emotion is, whatever is kind of wrapping you up over here between the 7 of Swords and the 8 of Swords. But like I said, like the energy is available to move through it, but you have to be willing to, like that, there's that saying, the only way out is in, right? Like you have to be willing to hear what the story is, what the block is, what is the limiting belief, what keeps coming through to you, and whose voice is it? Because I had this epiphany a couple weeks ago myself, and it's not like I hear like specific voices, but I know that they're not mine, right? Like I know that it's not me telling myself that that'll never happen, or how dare you, even think, and, like you're not shit, basically, right? Like I know that's not me, and it's not like I hear like a specific person's voice, but I know that shit was said to me by people, regardless of what their intention was. Their intention doesn't matter, right? Like we're not trying to figure that shit out. It's just, again, like, were you told that you're intense? Are you trying to suppress even like your own? And that's kind of why it's getting like kind of funky in your brain. I think so, because we have the Temperance card out here. And not only do we have the Temperance card out here, but we have the Page of Wands and the Knight of Cups out here. And literally, like, I love that 2 different energies came out here. I also even love that they're court cards. I'm not a super huge fan of court cards in general, but I love that the the two cards that clarify temperance, because temperance is about balancing things out. It's about alchemy. Like they have two cups in their hands that they're mixing liquid between. And also, like in some temperance cards, they are mixing fire and water. Fire being our passions, our energy, creativity, the actions that we take, trying things, being adventurous, having fun, spark, right? With emotion, love, intuition, joy, imagination, right? And like how well those even go together. I think you have a huge zest for life. I think that was traumatized out of you in some capacity. I think you want to show your authentic self. I think you want to explore what that even is. I think you're at a point where you're like, I'm an adult now. Fuck those people, like in the, in a sense, because that stuff is still there, right? Like, if somebody were to repeat those words to you that you've heard before, like it would probably sting. But also fuck them. Like, like now you're at an age now that you can make those decisions for yourself. And if there are still people around you who would say that shit to you, they don't need to be around you anymore. Pages are curious. That they're like the kid in a candy store, or wands, again, action, creativity, passion, trying things, because you figure out what you like and what you don't like by trying things. Pages, they're not really going to attach themselves to anything. Like at the page stage, you're just getting your hands dirty. Literally, probably, maybe. If there's something that you wanted to try, like I just literally like got the picture in my head of like painting or like watercolors, or even using your hands to do all that. It's for the creativity. It's for the plot. It's not at all anything other than, does this feel good? Do I like this or not? Do I want to continue to do this or not? Right? Like, and it's like figuring out those little things. Like, is this how I want to, does this feel good as far as like how I'm expressing my creativity or taking action towards what I'm passionate about? It's play, having fun. And by the time you get to the Knight of Wands, which we don't have out here, we have the Knight of Cups, which we'll talk about, but it's not until you get to a Knight where you kind of like, it's like you have more of an idea of something that you want to expand on. The Knight of Cups is like kind of the card, it's like the card of Delulu for me. It's following your heart. There can be an offer with this card. It could be you offering something to somebody. It could also, because it is with temperance, it could be learning to say no to things and learning to say yes to what lights you up, to the things that are in alignment with your creativity, your passion, what you want to do, what you're determined to do even. And like I said, with Knights, right? Like, and with Cups having to do with our emotions. I think I explained Cups, like how you feel about yourself, about your life, about your environment, love, your relationship to it. Like, how do you give it? But more importantly, how do you receive it? Intuition, imagination, joy, your nervous system as well. And again, like once we get to the night, my dog might start barking. Okay, sorry. Once we, what was I saying? I was gonna say once we get to the nights, but it's like you know how you want to feel. You know how you feel in general. You know how you want to feel going forward. And it's like expanding on that. What actions can you take or not take too? Because for some reason, like that keeps coming through too, of saying no to the things that, and even if you say yes, allowing yourself to say no at some other point. Like you're literally under no obligation to stick with a yes. Sure, I know that sucks sometimes. I know, those situations, those conversations suck to have sometimes. But if you are in this period of like making these shifts within yourself, it's just going to happen. So, just allowing yourself to switch gears or, change your mind as often as possible, which I feel like is very Page of Wands too. But yeah, I mean, there's this balancing, or even like there's some other word that's like trying to come through. Well, I can't think of it. So if it wants to be said, it'll drop into my mouth, I guess. But like, this balance between, again, like what brings you, what lights you up? What are you passionate about? How do you express your creativity? And also even too, like, how is your anger expressed? Because that keeps, coming up. And then balancing that out, or even like blending it together with how you're feeling, what you are getting involved in, like kind of where are you like showing up type of thing. Because, and I don't know if I already said this, but the Knight of Cups is also, it can be an offer, whether that's an offer coming to you or that you're offering. So, if you're offering your time, if you're offering, like your whatever, just, make sure that it is in alignment. And even again, like even if that gets like jumbled up somehow, you can change your mind as many times as you need to. We have the 10 of Pentacles, the 9 of Wands, and the Knight of Pentacles over here. This is definitely going to be a process. Like there's going to be hiccups. There's going to be trial and error. As with anything, I like, and again, like that's even the point of even doing anything, really, like you gain clarity through doing. And yeah, unfortunately, that is going to come with lessons, but good. Because also too, like by taking action down here, it takes you out of your mind. Instead of, like ruminating, or like instead of like spinning your wheels, or like being on the hamster wheel in your head, now you're doing something. Now you're collecting data type of thing. Right? And I actually think that it renews your love for your life. I think it reintroduces your own passion. I think your own inner flame, which no doubt like never went out, but I think that just gets stronger, and I think it just makes you more confident to express that. There's a level of security here. The 10 of Pentacles have to do with our money. Also, my phone died, but we're back. So yeah, thankfully I wasn't talking for very long before I realized that it had died. But Interesting, an alarm is going off too. And now my dog. Because that was the one thing I forgot to mention about red is like alarms. So, anyway, pentacles, money, security, stability, daily routines, your body. I mean, literally, like, you know, your possessions, the resources that you have available. Tens are a completion, but this is also like reaching a level of success. You know, this is being able to sustain yourself. This is being able to take care of others as well. There's a legacy aspect here. And when we think legacy, it's like what do you want to be known for? How do you want to be, I want to say like, how do you want to be seen? But it's not even, you know, it's pentacles. So we're talking about in a practical sense. It's even, you know, being seen as somebody who has the capacity to take care of themselves. It's like literally taking your own power back, like no matter how old you are. And it's also even like, I keep getting this feeling of excitement around that. And even adventure too. I mean, the Nine of Wands is the card. It's like the wounded warrior. This is the like life lessons card. It talks about like nines are completion or individual completion. Tens are like collective completion or like having to do with other people or community. Maybe even like peers or, you know, situations as a whole. Whereas nines are more, like I said, like individual, more just having to do with yourself. And the Nine of Wands, sorry. All of a sudden, like that break with my phone dying, like maybe that's even like a good lesson. Cause I almost kind of feel like the wind has been taken out of my sails a little bit. And it wasn't even anything crazy. It was just my phone died. I had to plug it in and then I had to wait for it to power back on. And then, you know, like that could even be Nine of Wands stuff. It's just kind of like the process could be, I don't want to say like it's not, you know, as dramatic as like calling it exhausting, but like there could just be times where you are going to notice the wind taken out of your sails, whether that is just situationally because something happens and, you know, like you were on a roll or because somebody throws one of those, you're being too intense, or, you know, it's like even one of those, you know, when you're like really excited about something and you're like telling a story, even like I was literally, like I said, like I'm just pumped and I'm like, I'm feeling this message and it you know, it's just flowing. And then something just kind of cuts that. It could be a person where I'm sure like if this has resonated for you so far, there's no doubt been times where you were just talking excitedly, right? And somebody was like, okay, calm down. And it just like totally shut you down. And you were just like, never mind, you know? Like that's how I feel now. So that's, I was even saying too, like this is going to be a process, right? And it's about to like learning to take care of yourself. You know, like learning even like how to nurture yourself when that happens, because it will. And again, it doesn't necessarily matter like other people's intentions, or it doesn't necessarily matter like what the situation is, but it's it's something that, don't let it prevent you from moving forward. Like, don't take it as a reason to stop. Just recognize that the wind has been taken out of your sails, or, there's something from your past that is being brought up here, or that's being activated or triggered. And of course, I mean, like, even having conversations with people about that, like, hey, this is how I feel when you do that, because this is my experience with it. This is what I, like, I'm focusing on now, and I'm trying to change. Because some people would just be like, I had no clue. I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. Or maybe I would give them a chance to explain themselves too, or whatever. Right. But the Knight of Pentacles it's slow moving. It talks about being committed, being determined, but the speed or the rate at which, something manifests into physical form is not the point. And also that it probably won't happen quickly. That's why I was like, this is going to be a process. It's just the only thing is this 9 of Wands here, that you may feel exhausted. You may get the wind knocked out of your sails. Like, just unexpected shit can happen. And when that happens, again, just figure out ways to take care of yourself. Whether that is through affirmations, whether that's just through telling yourself you're okay, not attaching yourself to thoughts or feelings. I always kind of like tell myself to make like a raft and float. Just meaning that, like, again, like, I'm not attaching myself to any one conclusion, especially when I am in a mindset, or, when I am activated or triggered, or, I feel shut down, or I feel, whatever. It's also even too, like, it's recognizing that it's not going to affect your momentum. It's like the turtle and the hare thing. Like, even the symbolism of a turtle is about, like, slow and steady, being determined, not going so fast as to, like, missing something or tripping yourself up, or even like receiving too many lessons at like one time too. So yeah, this was beautiful. I loved this. Thank you so much for allowing me to read your cards. I will talk to you soon. Bye.